Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for joining us for the Presidential Town Hall. My name is Michael Wright. I'm the VP for Communications and the Chief of Staff. And I'm very excited to be here because we're talking about the fall. And this fall is going to be different from last fall. We're getting near the end, so I hope you're excited too. I know there are many questions, and we will answer as much as we can today, and we'll continue to communicate as time goes on. But the format for this town hall, like the others, is we're going to have several presentations, but we also have a lot of the subcommittee chairs and others on the call who will answer questions, both from the questions that we received in the RSVPs, and we received many, but also from the chat. If you have other questions, feel free to submit them in the chat, and we've got people that are watching for those. If I pick up my cell phone, it's because I'm getting texted about specific questions. By the way, I'll mention this since I held up my cell phone. My internet's acting very strangely today. If I go out, don't worry about it. We've got plenty of people who can step in, especially our trusty provost, who's ready to MC should my internet go out. We will record this town hall, and it will be available on wayne.edu/coronavirus. You'll hear that address a few times today, because we keep updating that information and have since 14 months ago when we began this saga. And now I would like to introduce the man who has led us so capably almost all the way through this pandemic. So, President Wilson.
Thank you, Michael. Let me add my welcome to everyone. It's been really a pretty difficult year and almost a year and a half. I'm not even sure how many town halls that we've done, but we want to continue to keep people informed with our thinking this time as it relates to our plans to open up in the fall, or anything else related to the pandemic that's on your mind. Let me just start off with the campus message that I sent out yesterday. Of course, that was necessitated by the CDC's guidelines that they put out late last week, which caught some of us by surprise. It referred basically to vaccinated people, and that vaccinated people no longer needed to wear masks indoors or outdoors. And certainly while I agree with the science behind the guidelines, as I said in my message, there are practical limitations to its implementation. And as a result of these limitations in its implementation, we decided to require masks indoors on Wayne State's campus, notwithstanding what the CDC guidelines are in that regard. There just simply is no good way of validating who's been vaccinated and who haven't without some sort of vaccine documentation requirement, or vaccine passport, as some call it. And this has been very highly politicized, and it's just a situation which is just very difficult to ask people if they've been vaccinated or not, or to take any action as a result of that answer, at least right now. So the best way to combat this really is for everyone to get vaccinated, and so I encourage everyone to do so. Let me just start off by setting expectations and just address two things from the outset. What I anticipate is on everyone's mind, and what's probably going to be the first question that's asked is, will we have a vaccine mandate? So let me just take that right now. So we've avoided mandates so far. However, I do want you to know that we're constantly monitoring and assessing several variables, including the rates of infection on campus and in the community, and that we can get pretty good data on. The proportion of our campus community who are vaccinated, that one is difficult to get good data on. We tried the survey. The survey was somewhat helpful, but it really didn't get at the information that we really need to have a good estimation of the proportion of our campus community who are vaccinated. So that one is difficult to get some good information on. And then we're also monitoring the status of the legislative proposals that are being considered right now to ban state entities, including public universities, from issuing vaccine mandates and from requiring passports. So we'll make a decision based on all these considerations and make the decision with appropriate lead time prior to the fall semester. There just simply is no reason why we have to make that decision at this point right now. And so we're going to wait a little bit and see how things pan out with the different things that we are monitoring. So that's that. The other thing is that I hope that you're not disappointed, but we really are not going to be able to answer many of your questions with specificity. And we're not going to be trying to dodge the answers, but the situation is just constantly changing. I mean, just think about how things were last month, or even just 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, for that matter. Who would have thought from everyone being masked indoors and outdoors to where we are now, where you can go outside and no one's masked, and then even indoors there are a lot of people who are not masked. I mean, that is just a large turnaround in a very short period of time. I'm very optimistic that conditions will continue to improve and that the remaining restrictions will be further relaxed or even eliminated. But there is that chance, though, that things can go in the opposite direction too. And we'd be naive to think that it couldn't happen. And I think that it would be unforgivable if we weren't prepared if that were to happen. We can't get caught up in the euphoria of being able to have more liberties and have many of the restrictions relaxed. We have to continue to be driven by the science and continue to make common sense decisions. So we will try to answer as many of your questions as we can with as much specificity as possible, but we simply do not have all the answers yet. And instead of making something up or misleading you, it's just better to just state up front that we don't have the answer with specificity. But as soon as we do, we will continue to keep you apprised of what we're thinking. And I do want you to know that the Restart Committee, which was formed a while ago now, I think it was in March of last year, continues to meet on a weekly basis. And we do discuss probably some of the questions that you'll be asking. We discuss on a weekly basis, and we have many of the subcommittee chairs and others from the Restart Committee that is here with us today, and they'll be able to share information with you about their areas of responsibility. So we'll hear from the following. First of all, Provost Clabo, she, as you know, chairs the Public Health Subcommittee of the Restart Committee. We're probably going to make this a standing committee and rename it the Campus Health Committee, because even after this current situation is under control, there will still be a lot of decisions that have to be made in terms of keeping the campus as safe as possible. So her team has been working on the academic aspects of fall semester, and she'll talk about that a bit. Carolyn Hafner from Human Resources has been very much involved with exploring university policies related to phased-in return to in-person work and to policies related to flexible work arrangements. And so she'll address some of those issues. Dean of Students David Strauss is available to answer questions about student life. Rob Davenport from Facilities Planning and Management will answer questions on campus facilities. And Tim Michael from Student Auxiliary Services and Housing will provide an update on housing and dining and answer any questions related to these areas. So with that, let me turn it over to Provost Clabo.
Thanks, President Wilson. As President Wilson sort of presaged, our on-campus metrics are really the best they've been since the pandemic began. Both the positivity rate on campus and the number of cases are very, very low. And in the past 2 weeks, we've seen dramatic declines in cases and positivity rates in our surrounding community as well. So these data, along with what we're seeing is continued adherence to the guidelines that our campus has followed throughout, and of course the availability of vaccine, give me really great optimism about our ability to resume in-person campus activities this fall. The Campus Health Center is going to continue offering both testing and vaccines throughout the summer. Resources are also available for faculty, students, and staff who have specific questions or are seeking specific information about vaccine safety. And those are available on our coronavirus website from Wayne State's health experts. You know, since this began, we've always prioritized the health and safety of our community, and that approach has served us incredibly well. We're going to continue to do so as we transition back to more on-campus activities throughout the summer. There's also been, as you've probably seen, a lot of misinformation circulating about the virus and more recently about vaccine, some of it including from our own community. And some of this information can be confusing or frightening. We've tried very hard to help the campus community differentiate between real science and sometimes what are just misinformation and sometimes outright falsehoods. Please know that we're continuing to follow the science, and some of those scientists are among our own faculty, and that all of us being vaccinated is still the best way to avoid this disease, which is still very dangerous. And it's the best way to get all of us back on campus safely and resume the in-person activities that we all miss so much. Let me shift for just a moment and talk a bit more about some information about fall and academics. You know, the pandemic's made our world very different, but one thing that hasn't changed is our focus on students and their success. We remain as a community committed to providing students with the world-class education you can expect from a premier research university. Our faculty and our staff over the past year have had to adjust how they provide that education, and they have done an incredibly amazing job in doing so. So for fall, we're planning a mix of in-person, online, and hybrid classes. We are really hopeful that we will see a larger return to an on-campus presence and that many classes will be available in our usual setting. The class schedule is currently available and registration for fall is underway already. So if you haven't done so, please register now for classes at wayne.edu/register. We're going to be opening campus soon for campus visits. And as the president mentioned, masks are going to be required indoors. So details for formal campus tours through our admissions office will be posted at wayne.edu/admissions as soon as they're available. We've learned an awful lot over the past 14 months, and I want to assure you that classroom policies and safety measures will be followed based on the latest science and guidelines. We're also anxious to see students back on campus and doing many of the things that have been restricted, like performing on stage and participating fully in lab research activities this fall. Really, the most important thing I can do today is to encourage you to receive a vaccine, whether that's at our campus health center, at your primary care provider, at your local pharmacy, at your community health organization, wherever it is that you choose to get the vaccine, please make that choice. Please consider getting a vaccine as soon as possible. The earlier and the more of us vaccinated, the sooner and more safely we are able to return to a full fall return to our campus. Remember, the Campus Health Center has all 3 approved vaccines available for distribution. We are giving the Moderna vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, and for those who want a 1-dose vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So please make that decision and then follow through on your plans. Getting us all vaccinated is going to keep us all safe. I know that many of you on the call today are really interested in hearing about plans to return to on-campus operations and HR updates. So for those updates, I'm going to turn over to Carolyn Hafner, our Associate VP and Chief HR Officer, who also chairs the HR Restart Committee. Carolyn.
Thank you, Provost Claybo. And good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to just echo what our provost just said. You know, we've done an amazing job at continuing to provide quality educational service and quality operations. And we've done it very effectively remotely. And I really want to thank all of our faculty and staff who have worked so collaboratively together to be successful and help us keep our doors open and keep doing what we do best. But now it's time to get ready to return to campus. And I, for one, am very excited about that. Fall is my favorite time of the year, and I enjoy the excitement and the energy of new students coming to the campus for the first time, and returning students coming back as upperclassmen. And so it's a great time to look forward to. But we've got to do it and do it smoothly and do it safely. So we will have new students coming back to campus or coming to our campus, but we will also have a lot of new employees that we've hired over the past year during this pandemic, some of whom may have not stepped foot on our campus at all. And so we want to welcome them to the campus. We want to make sure that our transition back to campus is as safe and as smooth as possible. So we want to make sure we're following the guidelines of our Public Health Committee and all of the health and safety guidelines that we've put in place. As you know, the HR Restart Committee worked very hard last summer to develop the Return to Campus Guide. Well, we've learned a lot over this past year. And so we have updated the guide to incorporate that new knowledge. We've been communicating with the other committees to obtain new information so that we can make sure that that guide continues to be a very useful tool for leaders to help make the decisions that are going to need to be made in order to determine who comes back, when they come back, where and how they do their work. So the guide recommends a phased approach, not everybody returning all at one time, but a few at a time, starting out with getting your logistics team together to decide the who, what, when, where, how, and why of the staffing model that, as the provost mentioned, might be a hybrid model that may contain a mix of both on-campus staff as well as staff who work remotely, maybe a few days a week, or whatever works best based on the needs of the department. We're asking leaders to really take the time to plan it out over the summer and bring back a few at a time over the summer so that by the beginning of the fall term, we're ready to go. We ask that leaders will really carefully communicate with their staff to get an understanding of what the needs of the unit are and what are the needs of individual employees, being sensitive and being flexible to, this is quickly changing and evolving conditions, as President Wilson mentioned. And so we've got to give time for folks to make plans for childcare and for dealing with school-age children, et cetera. But we also have to make sure that the departmental needs are met as well. We want to make sure that we are taking into consideration flexible work arrangements. Those policies will be coming out soon, and minor tweaks to our forms, all of which will be available on the Human Resources website. But we will be emailing you to let you know when policies are ready, when the Return to Campus Guide is ready, so that you know when you can get ready. We're also tweaking a lot of the training that we had developed to incorporate all of the new information that's come our way recently. All of this information will be shared with you, but we also want to hear from you. If you have questions, if you have concerns, you can always contact your human resources team, your HR consultant. You can email me directly. I'd be happy to hear from you so that we make sure that we're incorporating your feedback and any concerns you may have. We want you to be excited about coming back to campus. We're looking forward to seeing you in person. We know that there'll be a lot of questions, and so we're here to help you to make those transitions as effective and as smooth as possible. So we'll ask that you stay tuned. Please watch your email, watch the websites, and I'll answer questions later. But at this time, I'll turn it over to our fabulous Dean of Students, David Strauss.
Thanks very much, Carolyn. Much appreciated. And good afternoon, Warriors. I hope today finds you and your family and your friends well. I have to tell you, I'm excited. I'm excited because the day that we will all be back together is getting closer and closer, and in some cases already here. What we used to think was no light at the end of the tunnel then became a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, and now is, and all of us on this town hall sharing with you today believe is a bright light at the end of the tunnel that is inviting our return, what we are calling the warrior return. So to all you warriors, and with a particular shout out to those new warriors who have not been able to experience campus life to its fullest, and those particularly the warriors of fall 2020, winter 2021, fall of 2021 who have perhaps not been able to come here to visit in person, we are eager and excited to welcome you with an immersion of student activities, opportunities, and involvements. The first that I am so thrilled to announce, mark your calendars now, is August 31st, Tuesday, August 31st, because new student convocation and festival are back. We will be in person, outdoors, on Gullen Mall, in Keys Commons, and we're so excited because we're going to be able to introduce all of our warriors who have not experienced this wonderful campus tradition to it. So think fall 2019. Keeping this warrior pride going, plans are in the works that in the coming weeks, student organizations will be able to reserve outdoor space for their programs, meetings, and events. Outdoor space for this summer, next month. The Student Center Administration is hard at work putting the system in place so you will be able to gather on Gullen Mall or Lindsell Lawn or Keys Commons or the Anthony Wayne Drive St. Andrews Plaza lawn. You're not going to have to wait until fall to see your fellow members and friends. The Warrior Pride continues as we are planning the Campus Activities Team Block Party outdoors on Gullen Mall on Friday, September 10th. And we're excited that we know that this fall we'll have the traditional Student Organizations Day, Warrior Days Week, the MPHC Yard Show, and much, much more. We are bringing back our traditions in person. And lastly, what I'm really eager for is the return of Warrior football. Mark your calendars now. The first home game is Thursday night, September 2nd. Student organization registration for the 2021-2022 academic year has begun, and the Get Involved email will continue to come to your Wayne State email box. During the summertime, we send it out only on Sundays, so be sure to check it every Sunday, and that will keep you up to date with everything that is happening. In the meantime, all of you, please continue to stay Warrior safe and Warrior strong. And now I want to hand it back to our MC and VP for Communications, Michael Wright.
Thank you, David. I wish you'd get a dose of enthusiasm when you talk about the fall, because actually, it's great. It's great to hear you. It's great to hear the enthusiasm from all the speakers. We've had a lot of questions, both before and some more coming in on the chat. So first, I would like to bring up Provost Claybo and Dean Benkert. for a couple of questions. And so here's the question. What strategies will be put into place to prevent COVID-19 outbreaks on campus? And will buildings have reduced occupancy requirements when we all return to campus? So maybe the first question, how will we prevent outbreaks?
So I'll take that one. We're going to continue with our current mitigation strategies throughout the summer. So we're going to carefully follow state and national guidance as it continues to evolve. And for right now, social distancing guidelines are going to remain in effect in all campus buildings. But we expect this is very likely to change by fall, given both the increasing number of vaccinations we're seeing and decreased incidence of disease. As always, we're going to follow the science, and we will have new guidance available as new information emerges.
Thank you. Dean Benkert, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I don't think so. I agree with
And there was, okay, sorry. There was also a question about occupancy. Are we going to be changing occupancy? And we also have, by the way, Rob Davenport waiting in the wings to come and give an update on facilities. So if you had anything you wanted to share now, we can get to Rob in a little bit.
Yeah, so occupancy for the moment stays as it has been throughout the pandemic with our 6-foot social distancing guidelines and the COVID capacities that have been assigned to buildings and individual classrooms. But again, we expect that's going to change.
Thank you. Dean Strauss was talking about events on campus. And one of the questions were there, what sort of restrictions will we have on campus events?
Well, I would say these are currently evolving, but we are certainly recommending outside events and that those are permitted and encouraged. So we hope you will be on campus, at least outdoors, and the indoor restrictions are evolving as we get more information.
And Dean Benkert or Provost Clabo, will we be requiring the daily screener on a continuing basis?
So yes. So we'll answer together. Go ahead, Dean Benkert.
So yes, we will continue to require the campus daily screener even into fall, which has helped us over this last 14 months or so identify and contact trace all the cases that have occurred on campus since the beginning of the outbreak.
So that's a little related to the next question, which is about how will we report COVID-19 exposures on campus or quarantine necessities and things like that?
So we'll continue to use the same processes that we've been using for the last 14 months as far as contact tracing and case investigation and tracking the data on Wayne State website, waynestate.edu/coronavirus. You'll be able to find the results for what we've been posting all year long.
Thank you very much. And there it is, wayne.edu/coronavirus. I told you we'd be talking about that from time to time. And we've done our best to continue the emails coming out, the website postings, the town halls, etc. So there'll be more communication coming up as we get closer to the fall and the various decisions being made. Thank you very much. If I may have Carolyn Hafner up, please. Hello, Carolyn.
Hey, Michael.
Lots of chatter out there about HR. And a lot about it is if somebody feels comfortable working with someone who's unvaccinated, what are the options? If they don't feel comfortable with somebody and they're not sure if they're vaccinated or they know they're not vaccinated. Do we know how to handle that?
Yeah, what I would certainly promote is lots of open, honest, candid communication between employees and their supervisors. And certainly, we've got a fabulous campus health center of, healthcare professionals that our employees can certainly talk to, and if they're feeling additional anxieties over returning to campus, there's always employee assistance programs, to help them deal with this. But we're really asking for, supervisors to really, be sensitive to this concern. Some folks have really struggled during this time, and my situation may not be your situation, but be sensitive and just keep our mission important is that we're here to provide a quality outstanding experience for our students. And I I think if we stay mission focused, we'll be able to get over this transition.
Yeah, we'll stay here for a bit, Carolyn. We've got a number of questions. And in the chat, there's a lot about what does flexibility really mean? And will these guidelines or these policies be flexible to accommodate the varying needs or concerns of employees? In fact, they actually, I think, asked for a definition. What does that mean? But not sure how specific you can get. But
well, certainly, we've had flexible work arrangements, have been out on our website since the beginning of the pandemic. We have been working to really formalize those into institutional policy, and we're very close to that. So I anticipate the formal policies will be in place over the next couple of weeks. And again, we're promoting that there are some folks who have worked extremely effectively. We've even had employees who've worked more effectively remotely than they were here. Folks didn't have the distractions of people coming and popping in your office or to your desk and having lengthy conversations. But at the same time, we have to keep the needs of the department. And so supervisors may determine that the work is done more effectively on campus than remotely. And so again, I think that what is going to be critical to success is that employees and supervisors have got to have a meeting of the minds and have a very open, candid conversation about it. But we believe that flexible work arrangements are going to be here, and our goal in human resources is to make Wayne State University a premier employer. And this hybrid workforce is going to go a long way for recruitment and retention of top quality employees and talent for us. And so, how it looks, I can't exactly tell every person. Flexible means you will work on campus 2 days a week and off campus 3. It's got to be based on the needs of the department and what the supervisor and the employee can agree to that will work successfully.
Thanks. And questions, nuanced sort of forms of that question. There are many of them. But what you just touched on, I think, answers of why have employees return to work at all if they're productive? And maybe that's a philosophical as well as a specific question, but maybe the benefits of coming to work sometimes, being in the same place as others.
Yeah. Well, I'll answer that two ways. I've talked to a lot of employees over the past year, many of whom miss the face-to-face interaction. At the end of last summer, we did a survey, and we had overwhelming results of people who said that their main concern about working remote was they missed their coworkers. They missed the social interaction. They missed the ability to be able to pop in and collaborate very quickly. I personally miss Michael Wright, knocking on my door in a certain way that I knew it was Michael Wright. And so I think that there are going to be a lot of people who will welcome being back on campus. And again, as I said, a lot of people enjoy the fall term in particular because of the energy. Now, there's that other group of folk who say, it's worked a whole lot better for me. And again, that is a decision that has got to be made and agreed upon between the employee and their supervisor to make sure that the needs of the department are being met. But at the same time, when you've got a quality, high-performing employee, we want to retain those kind of people. We don't want them to say, well, gee, I'm going to throw in the towel and I'm going to go to work for, some other institution down the street. And so I really encourage supervisors to keep that in mind. There are a lot of ways to build loyalty and to build productivity. And I found even in my own team that being flexible has often gone a long way. So, we're happy to help folks work through that process with them.
Yeah, and I've noticed in my own team that we've got people that can't wait to get out of the house and people that have never liked working better than when they've done it from the comfort of their own home. So everybody has a different solution. Our job is to serve the mission, and the best way to serve that is what is a solution we have to be perceiving. But there are also questions about the mandatory nature of returning to work. Can my supervisor require me to return to campus for work?
Yes, your supervisor can absolutely do that. But again, that supervisor has to make a decision on what the role and responsibilities are of a particular position, of the work that needs to be done, how and when it needs to be done. But again, can't emphasize enough the importance of that open, candid communication, and both parties being willing to be flexible. Both parties have to be willing to be flexible.
Is the just a clarification requested about immediate return for staff is not mandatory until fall?
And so, no, it's a phased in approach. And so, we are not saying to supervisors, you must start on, May 24th or June 1st. But what we are recommending is that leaders will pull together a small planning team. I like to call it the logistics team, and start figuring out, okay, what do we need to do? What supplies do we need? What equipment do we need? And really start working out those basic logistical things. And they're going to need a small team of folks to help them do that. And then allow some time between bringing in the next group, determining, okay, who can come? Who's the group that's itching to get back in? Maybe we bring those folks back in first. They can help build the consensus and the excitement around bringing the next group in who may be a little more apprehensive to say, hey, I've been here. I've been coming to campus. I'm doing great. It's great. We miss you. Why don't you come on back, Michael? Your office is vacant and I miss popping in. That's what I call positive reinforcement, to encourage other people and help minimize some of that apprehension. But phasing it in over the summer a little bit at a time, so that in hopes by the time that we're getting the fall term, we've got a good solid team in place and we know who's going to be working on campus and when and where, and who might still be working remotely when and where, and do we have all of our equipment together and supplies, et cetera.
Just a real quick, do we have a feeling for when the first employees will start returning to campus?
I would say probably about the second week of June. Our goal is to aim to have all the tools available, the return to campus guide, the flexible work arrangements and the forms and all of that within the next 2 weeks. So I would say, early June.
Okay, Carolyn, I'm going to give you a break, but don't go far. There's lots of enthusiasm, excitement, and questions about what return to work looks like. And I know you're going to print your guide with one of these points and post that. So if I could have President Wilson up for a question, please. President Wilson, this was specifically about, you talked about mandates or requirements, but what about for students in the residence hall? Will they be required if they're living together on campus? Or does it follow the same pattern as what you talked about before?
Yeah, you saved the hard one for me, huh?
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, right. So that will be a mandate. And right now, as I mentioned, I'm trying to avoid a mandate. But if we have to go to a mandate, we will go to a mandate. So I'm not trying to dodge a mandate. It's just that I want to try everything possible first to see what the data is, how many people are vaccinated, what the rate of infection is, data that we don't have right now. And fall is still a pretty long ways away. And lots happened over the past 3 months, and a lot's going to happen between now and 3 months from now. And so we'll assess it a little later on and make a decision a little later on. If we, in terms of the testing, I would anticipate that we will want to do at least some move-in testing, and I'll leave it up to the provost and the public health committee in terms of what that frequency of testing needs to be. I think it depends on how many people, what percentage of the population in the housing is vaccinated.
Okay, thank you. May I have Rob Davenport, please? Hey, Rob, people want to come back to campus and they wonder what sort of shape is campus in and is it safe and all that sort of stuff. So a few questions on your side. Will enhanced cleaning still occur throughout campus this summer and fall? And what progress has been made to improve air quality of campus buildings?
So great questions, Michael, and thanks for the invitation to give some information. The good news is that we're ready. In fact, we're ready now. We've been working since this pandemic began, making provisions to address cleaning concerns, but then also address indoor air quality as well. So on the cleaning front, we've been engaged this past year in project cleaning, along with running the business, of course. We've also been doing those extraordinary things that need to be done around campus that you typically do, in off times. So we've got our cleaning protocol pretty much working like a well-oiled machine, and that again can be found in our Restart playbook. On the indoor air quality side, we've increased makeup air as we've mentioned before, the fresh air. We've extended air exchange ratios. And of course, MERV 13 filters are the standard now for filtering across campus. So those measures have been in place for almost a year now. And the other thing that we've done is we've been flushing domestic water systems to be sure that we don't have Legionella growing in those systems. So that could be a silent problem that has creeped up on others, but fortunately we've had a program to address that as well. So I'd say by and large we're ready.
Thank you, Rob. And just to go back on the surface cleaning, I believe, well, maybe I'll just ask the question instead of giving the answer, but has the science changed regarding the ability of the virus to live on surfaces? Because when the pandemic first began, it was thought to live for long periods of time on certain surfaces. Is that still the same? Are we still cleaning the same way based on that?
I think it's important to have that protection and employ those protections across campus, which we are doing. But yes, by and large, the pandemic has been known to be contracted by aerosolization. And so that's where masking comes in and has been clearly very, very effective.
Yeah.
Real quick, some folks may notice the nanoseptic wipes that we've got or applications that we have on door handles and elevator buttons, that sort of thing. That's another means of combating, those contact surfaces. But so yeah, we've addressed that as well.
Yeah, Rob, is parking in your area? Because we're getting questions about parking. Will parking fees still be required, or?
Come fall, yes, we expect business as usual. So where we've enjoyed a bit of a reprieve during this pandemic period, we will go back to business as usual come fall.
Thank you, Rob. May I have David Strauss up, please? Dean Strauss, good to see you again. Will student organizations and activities be resumed fully in the summer, so before fall?
So student organizations can have their events if they want to have programs, meetings, and events outdoors. Stay tuned. We'll be getting an email out to you. So that will happen. Into September, same deal. As far as indoors, ballroom, Hillberry rooms, etc., to be determined as we talk about indoor safety. So that is to be determined, although we're all optimistic that we'll be back inside, but to be determined. Student, everything else, funding board still working throughout the summer. So submit for events and activities. Register right now. You're ready to register your groups now. Start new ones. That's rolling right now too. And get ready to have a table at Festifall on the 31st to recruit students to your organizations.
Thank you, David. Will university services remain virtual for students who do not feel comfortable accessing them in person? Things like tutoring, advising, etc.
I think one thing that we've learned, there's many things that we have learned from the pandemic. And one thing that we have learned is that we've had successes with virtual support services. So while I can't give you for certain an exact percentage or an exact resource, I can tell all of you that there's no way that we would ever go back to everything being 100% in person. That we've learned that virtual element is successful. For example, new student convocation, really fun to be at in person. But mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, brother, sister living somewhere outside of the area, they can tune in and watch. So I'm optimistic that you will be able to access virtual services.
Thank you very much. May I have Provost Claybo up for an academic question? Provost Claybo, is it possible the format currently listed for fall classes will be changed prior to the start of the semester? For instance, asynchronous or online, in person, etc.
It actually may. And as you know, we talked a little bit earlier about room capacity and building capacity. And if social distancing guidelines are reduced over the course of the summer, we may be able to offer more of our large classes on campus in person. So keep an eye on those formats. We're hoping they're going to change so that we have a more robust on-campus presence.
Thanks. Let's continue with just a little bit more. If at any point I no longer feel safe attending in-person classes, what will my options be other than dropping my class?
Great question. And really, my advice to students is to do two things: to consult with two people, the faculty member who teaches your course and your academic advisor. Those are the kinds of questions that there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. It's really important that we address each of these kinds of situations individually in a way that helps students progress towards graduation and at the same time makes them feel comfortable.
I'm assuming your answer is going to be pretty much the same for this next one. How and when will I know how many times per week my hybrid classes will meet in person? Talk to
the faculty member, talk to your advisor. They're the experts.
Okay, very good. May I have Tim Michael up, please? Hello, Tim. You're muted right now. Shannon, can you unmute Tim, please? Oh, there you are.
Thank you.
Tim, general question. What can we expect from campus housing this fall? Specifically, will guests in-person dining be permitted?
So very consistent with I think the themes you're hearing on the call today. We will continue to be guided by the science and with our strong partnerships with the Campus Health Center and with the Public Health Committee. We're preparing for a variety of opportunities and scenarios. We're very hopeful that for fall, we will be back to normal with in-person dining and in dining room dining, and with guests being allowed in campus housing.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I think this is in your area too. Will conferences be allowed on campus, and are there any limitations?
So currently, we are continuing all of our safety protocols and COVID mitigations into the summer that we practiced all academic year. Again, guided by the science, we hope to be able to reopen all of those activities across the summer if they're permitted. So there are very few scheduled for this summer. Certainly by summer of 22, we would hope to be offering a full slate of activities again.
All right, thank you. What will be the protocol if my out-of-state student contracts COVID-19 while living in the residence hall? So I assume that's from a member of the faculty.
Yes, so again, I just emphasize the strong partnership we have at the Campus Health Center and thank them for just the amazing job that they've done supporting our students and residents across the year. We're well practiced at how to handle when we have a positive test result in housing, and we will continue to work with the Campus Health Center as the science requires to make those accommodations. We will have space and we'll respond accordingly.
Tim, when will the Student Center be open for more visitors?
So the Student Center is a really important part of campus life, and I want to thank that staff because they've been working every day throughout the pandemic to provide that on-campus support for not only our residents, but other students who may be coming to campus. We're currently allowing more visitors. We do still require that you show your daily screener at the door. If you don't have a daily screener on your phone, you may be asked to do a paper screener. That documentation allows us to do contact tracing if there would be a problem. But we are slowly opening, and we've already cracked the door open that much to allow non-students into the building. And hopefully by fall, we'll be back to a semblance of what it was before.
Great. Thank you very much, Tim. I appreciate it. May I have the provost up, please? Provost Claybow's questions are getting more specific. When will the libraries be fully open?
So we're going to continue to watch capacity in the libraries over the summer as well as demand. Lately, we actually haven't seen much demand for the libraries, and so they're continuing to operate at reduced hours. But as we continue to see cases in the community decline, we're going to be able to slowly extend those hours, depending on times when students want the service. So, and by fall, certainly back to full operation.
Thank you. And can we invite the public to campus for events this fall?
That's a really good question. And I think this is going to be one of those ones that President Wilson would say we're not going to have a definitive answer just yet today. My innate optimism in watching the trajectory of this illness over the last few months is going to suggest that by fall, we're going to look much more like a normal campus, like we're used to, and that visitors will be welcomed again on our campus. But at the moment, we're not quite there yet. And we need to be able to know who's on campus and monitor carefully any outbreaks of disease if they occur.
Thank you.
By fall, more likely.
Thank you. May I have Carolyn Hafner back up for a second, please? Hey, Carolyn, this is about travel. When will the university allow for domestic travel, and will there be any sorts of guidelines on travel?
I'm going to follow the provost on that one. That's an evolving thing, and I don't have a definitive answer on that, but as soon as it's available, and of course, we'll continue to, monitor the science and the guidelines and provide that information as soon as it's available.
While I got you on there, Carolyn, there was a question whether or not we were going to train managers to make sure they understand the new policies. And I think this is specifically related to how we use flexibility in determining individual plans.
We are actually in the process. Our organization and employee development team, led by Dawn Aziz, is working on that as we speak.
Okay. And what about represented employees? Will the flexibility be accorded to them as well?
And we are also working through those through our employee and labor relations area, and talking to our union partners on that, so that we've got a very fair policy to be used across campus for all faculty and staff as appropriate.
Okay, I'm scanning. I'll bring the president up for this one, and I don't know if he can answer it. This would be our final question. It's about intramurals. Do you think we'll be able to start intramurals up very soon?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I think that athletics, intramurals, physical activity is a very important part of everyday life, and I want our students to have access to that. So again, we're just going to have to be guided by exactly what's going on the ground at the time. I do want to just make a comment about the travel that was just asked about. I think right now that international travel is still not advisable because there are just certain parts of the world which is just not at the same level that we are in terms of vaccination. This is one of those things where it depends a lot on your own comfort level, but if you're vaccinated and you need to travel somewhere, I think we should be flexible with that, and you should be able to do so. The common theme here is that I hope people are picking up is that if you're vaccinated, you can almost, even now, go back to what is very, very close to just normal times. And certainly over the next few months, I think as the trend continues in the way it's going, it'll be pretty much normalized if you're vaccinated. All the recommendations thus far is based on vaccination status. And so some of these questions that are being asked that we can't answer right now, it's because we don't know what the vaccination status is of the community. Once we're sure of that, and we know that a certain percentage, and I'm going to say a very high percentage is vaccinated, then I think that we can go back to life as normal. And so many of these questions are related to what the vaccination status is. And so I just encourage everybody to get vaccinated, and let's just get back to normality as soon as we can.
Thanks, and stay right there because we're going to wind up. But we're getting lots more questions, a flurry at the end. We're going to continue to answer these questions, and for some, the answer is still as we know more, we'll be able to decide more. And there was a specific one about flexibility to be, for children as well as other family members. And I think that goes back to what Carolyn was talking about, work with your supervisors, etc. So I'll just add my thanks for everybody for participating today, and just remind you one more time of wayne.edu/coronavirus. There's going to be information coming out, and we'll use email, and we'll be looking for another town hall sometime in the July timeframe as we get closer to the fall. But President Wilson, I just wondered if, beyond what you just said, which was pretty strong, was there anything else you wanted to add before we close today?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. We'll continue to keep you updated as information changes. And until then, stay masked if you're indoors. Enjoy the outdoors, and see you soon. As I said in my message, see you soon, unmasked.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all of the participants today, and thank you for the audience for joining us. And with that, we'll close. Thank you all.